In this short video we are going to deal with noun formation. But first, let's see what nouns are. Nouns are words used to identify any of a class of people, places, or things, or to name a particular one of these. We can categorize the different methods of noun formation in the following groups. 1. Nouns having the same form as verbs. 2. Nouns formed with prefixes. 3. Nouns formed with suffixes. And finally, 4. Abbreviations and acronyms. Nouns having the same form as verbs. In English, there are a number of nouns with the same form as verbs. For example, charge, comment, contract, copy, debate, design, hope, look, plan, reply, study. In some cases, the nouns differ from the verbs. In stress with nouns, the stress is on the first syllable, with verb citizen the second. For example, contrast, but to contrast, decrease, but to decrease, export, but to export, import, but to import, increase, but to increase, present, but to present, progress, but to progress, record, but to record, research, but to research, transfer, but to transfer. Pronunciation of different forms can also be different in words such as use, but to use, spilling is another cup of tea, practice, but to practice. In British English, both spelling and pronunciation can change sometimes. Advice, but to advise, device, but to devise. Nouns formed with prefixes. Most of the prefixes used for forming adjectives and verbs are also used for forming nouns. Asymmetry, asynchrony, antimatter, antiparticle, counterattack, countercurrent, decentralization, decomposition, disagreement, displacement, enclosure, enlargement, forecast, foreground, hypermarket, hypersensitivity, illegality, illegibility, imperfection, impossibility, inaccuracy, independence, interaction, interrelation, irregularity, irresponsibility, miscalculation, misinformation, nonsense, non-smoker, overtime, overwork, precondition, preview, subdivision, subsection, superconductor, supervision, unbalance, unrest, underestimate, understatement. Nouns formed with suffixes. Nouns describing people doing some activity, often an occupation, and people experiencing some activities like assistant, participant, attendee, referee, grantee, correspondent, respondent, engineer, manager, librarian, historian, mechanic, paramedic, mathematician, politician, physicist, pharmacist, supervisor, survivor. Nouns describing devices makes a shorter list with examples like condenser, opener, alternator, razor. Nouns describing small sieve things like in the words bottle to leaflet. Nouns describing abstracts a much wider field of nouns such as mileage, percentage, disposal, proposal, appearance, attendance, information, resignation, transformation, dependence, preference, simplification, verification, society, variety, capitalism, idealism, density, diversity, equality, regularity, validity, agreement, statement, usefulness, weakness, membership, relationship, conclusion, explosion, emission, transmission, assumption, consumption, recognition, solution, exposure, failure. Nouns formed with other suffixes are not so broad variety again like weight, breadth, length, strength, or width. Abbreviations and acronyms are the fourth category in our study set. Abbreviations pronounced as individual letters may be formal, such as for example exempli gratia for example here, that is the test for hatter, so they can be informal like DIY for do it yourself or ASAP for us. Soon as possible. Abbreviations formed from the first letter of a group of words, pronounced as one word. Acronyms is the second category with words such as NATO for North Atlantic Treaty Organization and NASA for National Air and Space Administration. And finally, there are abbreviations common in email messages as nouns such as F for away from keyboard or BTW for be the way. Well, that's it for now. I hope you've enjoyed it. Well, continue in the lesson. See you there.